All right. I think we're live now. So before I get into it, let me get the normal disclaimers I do every week out of the way. This is a weekly live broadcast, generally Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. This is where I'm at. I don't have a topic planned out. I do my best to interact with you guys during the live broadcast itself, so that live chat, I do my best to respond to every chat that comes in during that time frame, during this hour. Unless you're talking to somebody else. If you guys are having conversations with yourselves, I tend to skip over those, which doesn't bother me. It's fine with me. The only things I ask from you guys, I mean, you can ask me anything you want. Like I said, there's no topic planned out. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about for the most part. Keep it polite, keep it family friendly. Don't be hateful with anybody, cuss anybody, any of those kinds of things. We'll have to kick you out. But other than that, we're all good. Pretty much anything is go. So let's get into it. We got Rick here. Rick was first. Thanks for being here. I appreciate that. And Blessed with Pets, good to see you. Says, hello, I'm about to go to Tractor Supply and buy 5 30 by 36 do more cages because they're on sale today. Really, I gotta look at that. I'll just pull it up real quick. So we have there we are. Let me yeah, do that later. All right. So Swanson says, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't let my thumbs up be the only one. Well, there's 11 of them in here, so thank you, S.O. Swanson. I appreciate that. Isaac Arthur says, just discovered your channel. I appreciate all the content. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you watching, and thanks for joining the live broadcast. Scrap 5000's here. Says, what's up, everyone? Greetings from New York City. Good to see you as always. Jam and Mike, good to see you too. And Ed got Bates here. Says, good evening, Chris and Verna. Hope all is well. It's doing well. I'm doing well here. Hopefully you are too. Joy from Western Oregon. Good to see you too. Let's see. And then Mary wants to know, let's see. Mary is asking, Blessed for Pets. May I ask what Tractor Supply price, what they have on sale? I need to go there tomorrow anyhow. There you go. Excuse me. Alicia says, hello, wish me luck. My bunnies due tonight. First time mom. Hope they get put in the nest. Well, good luck with that. I hope they do too. Just keep an eye on them, though. It doesn't really matter. Oh, I missed somebody. I missed Jeff Sapp from Central Missouri. Good to see you, Jeff. Sorry, skipped over you. As far as the babies, don't stress too much. Keep a little bit of an eye on her. If she doesn't have them in the nest box, pick them up and put them in the nest box. It's not going to bother her a bit. She'll still take care of them. But good luck. I hope hope it goes well. Andrew says, good afternoon from a very snowy northern Alaska. Hope everyone is doing wonderful today. Hopefully you are too. Very snowy. I don't know. You can keep the snow. I'm done with it for the year. I'm ready for summer myself, but hang in there. Tony says, hey, from Toronto. Good to see you, Tony. Let's see. Blessed with Pets saying definitely was going to buy them today anyway. The sale was a bonus. I'm practically getting a free cage. Well, that's awesome. Always good to hit some things on sale when you need it. Patty from California, good to see you. Who's this? Backyard Meat says, good evening from the Texas Gulf Coast. I've been there, but it's been a very long time. Good evening to you, by the way. And David says, good evening from Wilmington, North Carolina. We got people from all over the place here. We got Andrew Bailey says, hey, from S.A., Texas, San Antonio. Is that it? S.A., Texas, San Antonio, I think. I've been to San Antonio. Pretty nice area. David says, hey, Chris, and all from Idaho. Good to see you, David. Hi in the bread aisle. Haven't seen you in a while. Says, hello, Chris. I'm incubating hatching eggs from my own flock. Is it okay to put these in their own cage when old enough and breed them? Yeah, it's perfectly fine. I'm not sure what your concern is. If your concern's like inbreeding or something like that, because it's your own flock, you're incubating those eggs. You want to know if you can make a breeding set out of those. I do it all the time. Really, you don't have to worry so much about inbreeding with birds. It's, first of all, you don't know which, assuming you have more than one rooster and, multiple hens, you don't know which rooster sired them all anyway. And secondly, it takes many generations. So now let's say you only have one rooster, you're incubating those eggs from that one rooster. Not that the rooster's laying the eggs, but you get what I'm saying. He fertilized all the eggs. Even then you can do that 2 or 3 generations in, just maybe once every year and a half, 2 years, get some new blood in, and that'll be fine. You don't have to worry about it. Let's see. Blessed with Pets says, so I'm going to go ahead and ask, what kind of food do y'all feed? I need something I can get shipped or at Tractor Supply. I've been told Producer's Pride is not great for them. which is what I bought. Producer's Pride rabbit feed, I think is what you're talking about. I feed something I get from a local feed store. It's produced locally. If you've got a feed store anywhere near you, you're going to get a better deal there than you will trying to ship food in or get it Tractor Supply. I don't know what Tractor Supply offers, so I don't know. I don't buy my feed from Tractor Supply, so I don't know what they have. I don't know anything about Producer's Pride to know whether it's a good feed or not. So we'll see if somebody else can give you some good suggestions in the comments here. All right. Terry Fort says, hello, good afternoon. Where we can buy rabbits from down south? Boy, that's a good question. When you say down south, I'm guessing you're meaning southern United States, Georgia, Tennessee. Was Tennessee in the south? Yeah, I think it is. North Carolina, South Carolina, that kind of Florida, I guess would be the south too, all that area right there. I don't have any good advice for you exactly where to get rabbits from down there. I don't know anybody. I don't have any connections there with any rabbit producers. But again, maybe somebody in the chat tonight will be able to get that answered for you or give you a suggestion. Other than that, just look on Craigslist, see what you got in your local area. Look for a poultry swap in your area, maybe 4-H clubs in your area. Those are a good way to get some good quality breeding stock. Sorry, I can't give you a better answer. I just don't know anybody in those areas. Rowan says, good night from St. Lucia, Caribbean. Just checking in. I always get confused too, and nobody can ever tell me. Well, because you're in chat, it's hard to tell me in chat, I guess. Is it Caribbean or Caribbean? I don't know. Amy says, hey, from Connecticut. We'll be incubating my first quail in a few weeks. Thank you for your videos. Very helpful. Well, awesome. Good luck with your incubation. Hopefully it goes well. Thank you for watching the videos. I'm glad to hear that they have been helpful for you. Blessed with Pets. Let's see. This says it's a 30 by 36 is regularly $40. Now it's $32. There are more deals in the other sizes too. If they do not say on sale at the store, they should match the online price. Oh, so $32 for a 30 by 36 cage. That's not bad. I have to do the math and see if that's worth it. I need some grow out pins. I'm going to, not yet. It's going to be a little while, but I don't know if that's a better deal than building them or not. Alicia says, my quail still aren't laying. Sort of confused as to why. If they aren't drinking enough, will that have a drastic effect on egg production? Light and feed for sure. So you say light and feed for sure. So that's the first thing that I always jump to is light. They need 14 hours a day of light, and there's not enough, if you live in North America anyway, there's just not enough hours in the day yet. We're getting there. The days are getting longer, but we're not there yet. So you do need to make sure you have some kind of external light that's going to provide them with 14 hours a day. Extend the daylight if they're outside, or just 14 hours a day on, something like that. If you only had it on for a short time, I would say it takes them about 2 weeks to start kicking into laying. So that's another thing, is if it's only been on for a short time, that could be the effect. If they're not drinking enough. So I don't know what you mean by that exactly. If they have access to water, they're drinking enough. But if you're running out of water on a regular basis, that could stress them out. That could affect egg production for sure. But it's unlikely that they would just completely not produce just because of that, unless it's a prolonged, extended, you're not giving them enough water all the time. So, but I doubt that's the case. I don't know how old your birds are. So that's another thing. If you can let me know how old they are, that might help a little bit. Make sure you're not moving them around a lot from one cage to another. That's a stress factor that'll keep them from laying. And other stress factors, there's other things that could be stressing them out, but I've never had real big issues. Like my dog goes out there to the hutches every day when I go out there to feed. He goes out there, he gets under the hutches, he sniffs up underneath there, it kind of stirs him up a little bit. That doesn't bother him too much. So I wouldn't worry about those kinds of things, but those are the things that come to mind right offhand. Let me know a little bit more, and we'll see if we can get it answered for you. Hi, the Bread Owl says, thank you for answering that. You are absolutely welcome. I do my best to answer all the questions I can. I forgot what I answered for you. What did you ask? About breeding your own flock. Rowdy Rosie says, I only feed store feed. So is that Tractor Supply store brand? Do they have a Tractor Supply brand? I think they do. I don't know. I only buy dog food from Tractor Supply. I don't buy any other kind of feed, so I don't know. Mary says, we breed our young buck to our 2 does 1 day apart. The second doe didn't take. She is on day 35. Should we have waited longer on our buck. By the way, 4 babies from the first time mama. No, you should be. 1 day apart should be plenty for that buck. He should be able to, and you had 4 babies from the first time mama, so that's good. Congratulations there. But no, that should be fine. 1 day, your buck should be able to service that doe. I mean, it shouldn't be a big deal at all. It shouldn't be an issue with your buck. But you never know. I'd just say give her another try. Maybe she was a little on the young side. Maybe, who knows? You said it's a young buck to our 2 does. I don't know if they're both first time. Give her another try. See, who knows? There could be a number of reasons why it didn't take. It doesn't sound like, I mean, if you're waiting 1 full day before you breed them to the other one, that should be plenty. That shouldn't be the issue. So I don't know what else. I mean, there's lots of other things. Who knows why? Andrew says, been struggling getting eggs for my quail when I started catching crickets at night and giving them to the quail, and their egg production has tripled. Yeah, well, that could be something to do with it, but it's probably more time of year. We're going into spring. I mean, assuming, I forgot where you said you're at. You said you were in, I remember you said somewhere up here, didn't you? Where is it? So, Texas. Yeah, so, I mean, we're getting into that time of year. The days are just a little bit short, It's not, we don't get 14 hours a day of light. My birds have tripled their egg, well, not tripled, but doubled their egg production in the last couple of weeks. And nothing's different. I've got lights on them. I was getting 4 to 5 eggs a day. Now I'm getting, well, they haven't doubled, but I'm getting 6 to 7 eggs a day. So I don't have a huge flock right now. I kind of downsized for winter. I'm getting ready to ramp back up. So, but it's probably more along the lines of we're just getting to that point because the days are starting to get longer, that their egg production is going to increase. All right. Andy Rabbit's here. Good to see you, Andy. Jammin' Mike says, when we had rabbits, we fed the rabbits producer pride pellet feed and didn't seem to be a problem, and give it chickens as a treat some. So I'm guessing you're saying you gave the rabbit feed to the chickens as a treat sometimes, not you gave chickens to the rabbits as a treat, because that would be weird. But yeah, I don't know anything about producer's pride, so it could be a good feed, it could be a poor one. Who knows? Good question. Excuse me. Still got a little bit of congestion. All right. Paul says, good evening, Chris. Hello from Central Kentucky. Good to see you, Paul. Thanks for joining. And Patty says, hit the like button. We got 25 likes already, so we're on the right track. Hey, Whiskey Tango Farms is here. Says, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. We have a huge rabbit show coming up this weekend in Wisconsin. I'm finishing up award rosette ribbons. We should go to a show out that way sometime. It would be fun. Yeah, if you ever make it down to a show in, any part of, the Ozarks, southwestern Missouri, northern Arkansas, any of those places, let me know. I'll see if I can make it. And I've never been to a rabbit show, actually, believe it or not. Wouldn't be a bad idea to go. Backyard Meat says, I have a quail hen prolapse today. Any thoughts on why? There's a lot of reasons why it could happen. The one thing I will say is prolapse is, it's a very difficult thing to treat. You can treat it, but the problem is it generally reoccurs. Not always. Hopefully that's not the case with yours, but if it's a reoccurring issue, I would call that bird. I believe that it's one of those things that they can just be more genetically dispositioned to. I may be on the wrong track with that. I don't know. That's just my belief that some birds are more genetically dispositioned to having that, just like some rabbits are more genetically dispositioned to have sore hocks than other rabbits. So that is my thought on it. There's other reasons why it could have happened. But if it's not a reoccurring issue with any of your other birds or anything like that, it's just this one bird, it's probably genetics. Patricia says, hey, from Virginia, I put 24 jumbo Coturnix quail eggs in the incubator. Barato Lumina, I don't know what that is. Is that the incubator? Says none hatched, no developed at all. Cracked all of them, none were rotten. Temperature was set to 99.7. Help. Well, there could be a number of different reasons. They may not have been fertile to begin with. Have you double checked your incubator to make sure it's reading temperature correctly? 99.7's pretty close. Really, 99.9 is about where you want to be, but those 2 degrees, you should have still had development in there. So it may be that they weren't. It's a Barato Lumina. Okay, Lumina incubator. Okay, I got it now. I'm with you now. I'm not real familiar with that incubator, so I can't say. Sorry, I just heard a weird noise back there. My wife's out there. She'll take care of it, whatever it is. Not sure if it was the dog or something else. Anyway, you might check your incubator to make sure that, get a couple of external thermometers, throw them in there. But those would be the two things that I jump to. When you have problems with an incubator, it's usually either the temperature is not being read correctly. That's pretty common with incubators, is their thermostats off just a little bit, or they're not fertile eggs. And the fact that you didn't have anything develop, none of the eggs were rotten, nothing like that, makes me think they probably weren't fertile to begin with. But that's just a guess. Alicia says, I have LED lights on my quail, and they have free access to food, some food for a long time, not a new bag. Oh, same food for a long time, not a new bag. They have access to water, but it's cold, and they aren't drinking as much. Okay, so you have LED lights on the quail. They have free access to food, same food for a long time, not a new bag. That shouldn't make any difference. They have access to water, but it's cold, and they aren't drinking as much. So is the water freezing? Is that why they're not drinking as much, or they just choose not to drink as much? If they're just choosing not to drink as much, that's not a big difference. I mean, it's not a big deal. I wouldn't worry about that. LED lights on them, if it's bright enough to read by, it should be bright enough to produce eggs. But, if they're outside and it's cold out, and it's still not quite spring, we don't have quite 14 hours a day, that may be part of it, especially if they're younger birds. It sometimes takes them a little while to get into the habit of laying. I would say give them a little bit longer. I don't know how long you've had the lights on them. Nothing you're describing there makes it sound like there's an issue. As far as access to food, same food for a long time, that shouldn't matter either. As long as it's not moldy or something like that, that should make a difference. So there's nothing stands out there to me to say, oh, that's the issue right there. It may just be a matter of just having to give them a little bit more time. Whiskey Tango Farm says, I was asking Patricia if those are your own eggs or were they shipped eggs? That's a good question. Jay Bennett says, hey, Chris, do you know what causes a chick to hatch with curly feet? I had one hatch with, oh, no, I scrolled and it went, oh, there it is. I had one hatch with a curly foot and the other with a curly foot and then the other curl, just hoping to prevent it in the future. Okay, so that is usually, not always, sometimes there's genetic issues with the birds or vitamin deficiencies. That's pretty rare in newly hatched chicks, but it could be some things like that. It's the same kind of things that cause splayed legs and all those. Most of the time, that's going to be the birds that hatch late. So they may have been in a cooler spot in the incubator, or your incubator temperature may have been off a little bit. If it's only one bird, it's probably just that bird, for whatever reason, couldn't get out of the shell in time or developed a little bit slower than the other birds because it was in a cooler spot in the incubator, or if you're feeding a lot of extra calcium to your birds, you could have thicker eggshells that make it hard for the birds to pip. But for whatever reason, birds that have a hard time getting out of the shell or hatch late do tend to have more issues with their feet than other birds. So usually I find that is, like I said, probably a cool spot in the incubator where it was just a degree maybe cooler than the rest of the incubator. And that bird developed a little bit slower and just didn't hatch at the right time and didn't build up the strength. Sometimes that can be fixed, but it's difficult, honestly. And when you have those problems, it's usually best to just cull the bird, in my opinion, because especially if it's a genetic issue and you don't even know, the genetic, you don't even know what it is. Sometimes they'll fix them on their own, but like you said, this one, it hatched with one curly foot and then the other one curled up. Probably going to be difficult to fix that one, unfortunately. Good news is it's probably nothing to worry about. You're going to get those birds like that every once in a while. As long as it's just one or two in your hatch, it's nothing to stress about. You're not doing anything wrong necessarily. Blessed with Pets says, I'm expecting 5 litters. So excited. I went from not being able to get my does to lift. And then I bought 6 rabbits, got the does I bought, bred, and the does I already had. Also, proud I finally palpated. Well, there you go. Good job. I got my rabbits to breed too this last weekend. Just that time of year, they're just a little bit more willing to do it. Militia says they're all from last fall, same cage, wild time. Okay, sorry we keep going this back and forth, but we kind of have to do this to get it all straightened out. Were they laying before and they just stopped laying, or they just never haven't started laying yet? If they haven't started laying yet, just give them some time. It's probably just that they're waiting for the daylight. Even with lights on them, sometimes they're a little bit sensitive to that. and it especially when they're first coming of age, and it just takes them until they get a little bit further into spring before they'll start laying for the first time. I don't know. We'll see how you hear there. Rowan says, I hear people say Caribbean both ways, so not. I guess it's just about where you're from. I say Caribbean. I think Caribbean. I don't know. It's hard to tell how you pronounce it, huh? Tell how you pronounce it in text or in words without speaking, I guess. Blessed with Pet says, the does correctly. I felt embryos, so I'm proud of that. Okay. You palpated them correctly and you felt embryos. Good. Palpating's hard. It's hard to do, so you should be proud of yourself. Blessed with Pet says, I've never been able to tell if they're pregnant before then. Yeah, I know what you mean. Palpating's difficult. Scrap 5000 says, Chris, the white line of quail continues to get well. I have some more hatch, so now I'm up to 14. Woohoo. Well, that's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that is going well. I know you had a little bit of problems with them to begin with. It sounds like you're getting over that. Whiskey Tango Farm says, Rabbit people, today is the day to breed for Easter kits. That's true. Whiskey Tango Farm says, if you can get them to lift, do you think if I casually place the crock pot next to the cage, they'll lift for me? Yeah. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the trick, right? My does, I say, if you guys watched my last video, you saw I got them to breed, and I've been trying for a while now to get them to breed. It's been a couple of months, several months actually, since they kind of came of age. And it really, I think it just came down to the amount of light. I don't have external lights on my rabbit hutches. So, as the days started getting a little bit longer, they became more receptive. Now I think a lot of it was because they're first time moms and they came of age in the fall. Now, I bred plenty of times where I've had rabbits breed in the fall and the winter. I primarily do breed in the fall and the winter. But those are usually does that have already been bred. They're experienced does that they were already, had kits before. And to get them to breed again is a lot easier than get a first-time doe to start breeding. And I think they just needed the extra light to get them in the mood. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe a crock pot would work out well, or candles and some Barry Manilow or some Barry White music and something like that. Who knows? Jesse says, good evening, everyone. Just got done moving chicks into the brooder. I had 124 eggs in. So far, there's 107 babies in the brooder. One baby popped out while I was moving them, and 5 or 6 were zipped. Well, awesome. Sounds like you're having fantastic results. Congratulations there. Scrap 5000 says, anyone raise or sell Duroc or Berkshire pigs, or know of anyone who does near Connecticut? I'm looking to partner up with someone, and we're looking for those breeds. I don't know anybody. I did see some advertised here locally not too long ago. I think they were Berkshire is how you pronounce it, but no, they're nowhere near Connecticut. J-Rod says, good evening. Any luck getting your silver fox to breed? I did. Yeah, actually, I just talked about that. So you asked that question probably before I talked about that. But yes, got them both bred same day. Jamin Mike says, yes, on giving the chicks the rabbit food as treats, and my comments may be confusing sometimes. LOL. It wasn't really confusing. I was just kind of making a joke there. I kind of figured that was the case. Hi, and the Bread Owl says, another question. If you started a new hatch on March 1st, is that day 1 or day 0? Yeah, it is. Don't worry about it. You go into lockdown on day 15. Now, whether that's day 14 or day 15, it's not that big of a deal. So I always count the day I set the eggs as day 1. But either way, it's not going to throw things off that much. It's no big deal. Blessed with Pets says, I will at least use the bag I bought. Then I might switch to Mana Show or Mana Grow. So talking about the feed you're using. Cool. Paul says, folks say I'm a silver fox. Hey, if I had hair, I'd be right there with you. Look at my beard. Yeah, it's pretty gray. Allison says, do you have any tips for keeping coyotes and mountain lions away from goats and other livestock? Oh, man, that's tough. Electric fence? That's my best guess. I don't know. I don't deal with that here. Coyotes we do for sure, but not. I mean, I can step out like early morning in my backyard and I can hear coyotes. They're not very far away, but I live in town, so would be rare for them to actually come in on my property. But I mean, not unheard of. I mean, it could happen, but it'd be pretty rare. But mountain lions, no, I definitely don't have any problems with mountain lions. We do have mountain lions in Missouri, but they're pretty scarce. There's not very many of them, and they're not going to venture into town. So I don't know. Electric fence is the first thing that comes to mind, but I don't know. Scrap 5000 says, Chris, being from Missouri, have you ever watched the show Ozark? It's pretty awesome. I have not watched the show Ozark. I think it was on Netflix. I don't have Netflix. I've heard it's a pretty good show. I know where the town of Ozark is. It's not very far from here at all. Actually bought my kayaks from Ozark, but not from the town of Ozark, but from a dealer that's in Ozark, Missouri. And it's not, from what I understand, that the show does not depict the city at all like it is. It's a suburb of Springfield. It's right outside of Springfield. And it feels very much like Springfield, actually. So it's not that backwoods. Andrew says, okay, I have eggs that are to be picked up in the post tomorrow morning. I have a question. When receiving shipped eggs, should you float them in water? Also, should you spray them? I have heard a mix. Well, yeah, for shipped eggs, I do the exact same thing for shipped eggs that I do for the eggs that I collect myself. The only difference is I tend to set them and let them set for about 12 hours, 12 to 24 hours before I put them in the incubator. I just let them rest and settle down before I put them in the incubator. But yeah, float test them just like I do, like float them, just like I do eggs that I'm saving myself. Spray them with Listerine mixture, just like I do eggs for myself. I do all that stuff with those and get pretty good results. Hey, Aaron Gidros, I think I got it right, is here. Good to see you. Says hello to everyone. James Wilson says, question, what kind of license do you need to sell eggs, meats, and feeder birds besides MPIP? Well, as far as I know, MPIP is only required if you're going to sell across state lines, but it's probably a good idea if you're going to be selling that stuff on a regular basis to go ahead and get it. As far as the license you need, I think that really depends. I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. I don't sell those. I don't really sell that stuff on a regular basis. But I believe that it depends on how much you're going to sell. So depending on how much you're going to sell, I don't know that you need a license at all if you're going to be pretty small, especially not if you're just going to be selling eggs and live birds. Now, when you're selling meat, that may be a little bit different, but I don't know the specifics of it. You're going to have to look up what it is in your state. Unfortunately, I just don't know. I'm sorry. Patricia says, WRF, birds that I hatched from your eggs. WRF. Is that Whiskey Tango Farms? WTF? Your birds are birds you hatched from Whiskey Tango Farms eggs. Is that what you're saying? The ones that are not laying? Is that what we're talking about? I'm getting mixed up and losing track of who I've talked to about what. Let me scroll back up. Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about. All right. Anyway, we'll see what they say. Okay, Patricia, here's Whiskey Tango Farms' response. If they didn't come through the mail, X-ray can cause issues or just handling issues. And it was from yours. I would double check your mail and make sure he's not lethargic and that he's foaming. So it sounds like, okay, so Patricia's the one that had the eggs that didn't hatch and didn't develop at all. Okay, now I'm on track. We'll see what Brandon, or I don't know if it's Brandon or Kristen, whoever Whiskey Tango Farms is talking, whoever it is out there that's talking tonight, we'll see what they say. Let's see. Where we at? David Bringleson from Florida. Good to see you. Katrina, good to see you too. Thanks for joining. Says, hello to everyone from Gilroy, California. Up to 6 inches of rain predicted between today through Saturday. We're out of all the flood zones, which are being pre-evacuated right now. 6 inches of rain. Yeah, that's quite a bit. We got some pretty heavy rain coming too, I believe, but not 6 inches. And it says, I just donated blood, so I'm a little late to the party. Well, thanks for doing that. I appreciate that. I, for one, never donate blood. I just can't stand to have blood being drawn. It just bugs me. I can do it like when I have to have a blood test done. I can get through it, but I'm not going to go and sit there and let them just draw blood. I just can't stand it. It just drives me crazy. Where are we at here? Crazy King says, thanks for your videos. You've answered a few questions I've had for my bird over the last couple of months. I've had them. Well, awesome. Well, thank you for watching. I'm glad that you found the answers you needed. All right. Who else we got? I just splashed that on my glasses. I got to clean those off. Hang on. Can't see. Can't read the comments without my glasses on. All right, we're back in business. Buster says, hope Verna is okay. Anyone know where she is? No, I haven't talked to her, actually. I'm sure she's fine. She just needed a night off, probably. Katrina says, slightly redneck, try the peanut butter yet. Was that were you the one that said give the dog peanut butter to get it to quit barking? Is that what you're talking about? No, I haven't tried it yet. The dog doesn't actually sit over there and bark all the time, only when I'm outside, and especially when I'm out there with Max. She wants Max to go over and play. They run back and forth and along the fence line there. So she tends to bark at us when we're out there, but when we're not out there, it's no big deal. And really, it's mostly whenever I have the camera out there and I'm talking to the camera that she's barking like crazy. So it just works out that way. But I may try it. We'll see. David says, I've hatched chicken eggs and chicks had curly feet, but was fixed with vitamin K. Yeah, and I think it's vitamin E and thiamine. I thought those were the two, but vitamin K, that may be a good one. So yeah, you can give it a vitamin supplement and see if that's going to help too with the curly feet. That's not a bad idea. I tend to call animals that are, that are born with splay legs. Curly feet's a little bit different. I can try to fix that. But splayed legs, I tend to just call those animals because I just don't feel like it's worth putting that much effort into. It sounds terrible. I don't mean it cold-hearted, but I feel like those are genetically weaker birds. I don't want to pass those genes on. Andy Rabbit says, if I'm not on next week, sorry, but it will mean I'm having too much fun. Well, that's okay. We don't keep track of attendance here. It's fine. Blessed with Pets says, anyone here raise turkeys? My dad bought a male and 2 females, and we know nothing about them. I do not raise turkeys. I thought about it once or twice, but don't do it. How are we doing on time? We got 28 minutes left. We're doing good. Alicia says, we have 2 quail, slightly different ages. Older batch laid last fall before winter. Younger batch did not. Added lights about 2 months ago. No eggs since fall. I'll just be more patient. That may be what you have to do. I mean, if you added lights 2 months ago and you're getting them, now make sure your lights are on long enough. 14 hours a day is what they need. So, if they're outside, you don't have to have the lights on all day long. Just have it come on before the sun goes down and stay on for, a good couple of hours to make sure you get at least 14 hours a day of light. 2 months should be plenty of time for them to adjust to it, though. Don't know. Maybe I missed it. S.O. Swanson saying to Andy Rabbit, enjoy your trip and honk when you drive by. I don't know where you're going, but if you're going somewhere, yeah, have a good trip. Patricia says, Whiskey Tango Farms, thanks, I'll check that. This is the 4th incubator from Barado. Other hatches were good. Eggs are from your birds that are 9 months old. Okay, so these are not shipped eggs. These are eggs from the birds that you have right now that were hatched out of Whiskey Tango Farms eggs is what I'm guessing. So, yeah, I'd check the rooster too. I think you're on the right track. Maybe the rooster is just not breeding yet. What I find generally is the roosters tend to be a little bit more sensitive to the light than the hens do. So if your hens are laying eggs, chances are your roosters are ready to breed too. But that's not always the case. 9 months old, it's not terribly old. You should still be getting fertile eggs out of them, but who knows? Maybe it's a little bit early in the season yet. Maybe they're just not fertile yet. J-Rod says, I have some 9-week-old quail that looks like one of them exploded in their pen every day. No signs of aggression. You think it's just normal molt. Oh, okay. By exploded in their pen, you mean feathers all over the place. 9-week-old, that's a little bit early to be molting for sure. It could be some molting, I guess, but I don't think I've ever had 9-week-old birds molt. But what you're describing sounds like molting. Lots of feathers everywhere. If they're not getting disturbed, if there's not something that's going in there and just flushing them, do you have like raccoons coming by at night, reaching in, trying to grab them and stirring them all up, getting them to fluff, lose some feathers or something like that? Those are the only things I can think of. All right. Backyard Meat said, I did dispatch the prolapse hen. She was a new layer and almost 16 ounces. Very disappointed, but it happens. Thanks for the reply. Yeah, it does happen. And, that may be part of the problem, too, is that, as we start breeding for bigger and bigger birds that lay bigger and bigger eggs, sometimes you're going to get some weird things that happen. Genetics are a weird thing, and sometimes they're, like I said, you're just going to get some weird things that happen, and maybe that bird was just too big for its own good and genetically disposed to being more prone to prolapse, unfortunately. Aaron says turkeys are, to Blessed with Pets, says turkeys are fairly easy to care for, much like chickens. Pro tip, don't try to take an egg from a broody turkey hen. Yeah, I can imagine. My grandma had turkeys when I was a kid, and I was a young kid. I was pretty small, and I can remember, man, those turkeys would get around you and just beat the tar out of you. Allison says, Blessed with Pets, I used to raise turkeys, and I learned quite a bit about them, so if you have any questions, let me know. I knew somebody would be helpful here. Andy Rabbit says, I set some quail eggs today, filled the little giant egg turner. They laid a few eggs next to the turner to see how they hatch, just for the fun of that. I won't be home till 2 days before lockdown. Oh, well, good luck with the hatch. I hope it goes well. Blessed with Pets says, also, Chris, the Do-More cages are definitely way cheaper than building your own cages. They do have the occasional bent wire, but they're pretty good quality. I love the black coating and the latches. Overall, they look nice, and I think I'll use them for quail eventually if I get into them. Awesome. Well, I will give you a hint, though. If you use them for quail, you probably need to replace the floor or put something else over the floor. My experience is that the spacing on the rabbit hutches on the flooring is just a little too big for the quail. They have a hard time walking on that, and it can lead to some feet problems. Jay Bennett says, thank you. Yes, the chick with the curly feet died today. I ordered these quail eggs online, and 11 of the 21 eggs hatched. A few were cracked during shipping. That's unfortunate. You might, like I said, throw a thermometer in your incubator and make sure that it's reading the temperature correctly, because it may be incubating a little bit cool. If you only got 11 out of 21 and one of them had a curly feet, usually what I find is the ones that are born with leg problems, whether that be splayed legs, curly feet, any of those things, that's usually late hatches, which is usually caused by low, either cool spots in the incubator or low incubator temperature. So you might just double check that, get a couple of calibrated thermometers, make sure they're accurate, and throw them in there and see if it's reading temperature correctly. Katrina says, ending up keeping 2 does as breeders named Ravioli and Ragatoni. I believe I remember you saying that free feed them until 18 weeks. Is that correct? I tend to free feed mine until 18 weeks is fine, but I tend to free feed mine till about 12, 13 weeks, somewhere right around in there. Go to 18, it's fine. It'll work just perfect. Andy Rabbit says, Blessed with Pets, that really depends on how many you're building. Oh, it's how many cages you're building. Yeah. Yeah, I usually find that if you're building, if you're going to go 4 or more cages, it tends to be cheaper to build them than it does to buy them. If you're only going to need 1 or 2, it can be cheaper to buy them. Or pretty close to the same price. And, if you can get them for pretty close to the same price and not have to build them, why not just pay for them? Rick says, Blessed with Pets, these are not good for quail outside, or baby rabbits can get pulled through. These are not. Oh, so you're saying that the Do-More cages are not good for quail. Well, if you replace the flooring, it could be okay. Or baby rat. Oh, because cats can pull the babies through. Okay, cats can get to them, or raccoons or something like that can reach through and grab them. Yeah, that's a possibility, I suppose. You can always put baby saver wire around the bottom. That'll help. There's lots of ways you can deal with that, I guess. Yeah, you're saying the same thing I just said. Blessed with Pets says, yeah, Andy Rabbit, it's definitely true. But I mean, if you just want to make 1 or 2 cages, it's definitely cheaper to buy them. Yep. Manny says, whoa, I just scrolled too far again. There we go. Can anyone tell me what is the best treatment for rabbits' ears? It's always the same for rabbits that get it. Cauliflower ears. I've done the oil, no good. Cauliflower ear on the rabbit, huh? That's kind of odd. Let me see something. Huh. I'll have to look into that a little bit more. No, I'm not familiar with that. Cauliflower ear does not sound like cauliflower ears, like swelling. Their ears swells up and gets real puffy. That's not the same as ear mites. Ear mites is more of a scabs inside the ear. Sorry, I got distracted here. Okay, we're good. So I don't have a good solution for that. I've never actually seen that, so I'm not sure. We'll see if somebody else does and can maybe answer that question. Allison says, we sell eggs and meat to our friends, family, and neighbors, and we don't have a license or anything. Well, good. I mean, it's friends and family, so that's fine. That doesn't necessarily mean it's legal, though. Nobody's complained. Nobody's turned you in or anything like that. I think you're okay. I'm not saying you're not. I'm not trying to make you paranoid, but it's always good. Check into what your regulations are. See if it's a requirement for you to have some kind of license before you go trying to sell to the public, of course. Let's see. Rick says, Andy Rabbit, these cages rust fast. I had 18 of them outside, and the baby rabbits will get through, and cats can get them, or raccoons. Interesting. So, yeah, you could always change the bottom out, too, if it rusts. I mean, I have to change the bottoms of my cages out every couple of years. Blessed with Pets says, I plan on putting some chicken wire around the bottom for the baby saver. Well, that might work. Let's see. Blessed with Pets says, okay, heading into TSC. I'll get back if I can. Yeah, well, good luck, because you only got about 20 minutes. We're going to be shutting it down. But Rick says, hit that like, people. Well, thank you. Yeah, we got 46 likes in here. Gloss, I think it is. I can't remember if I pronounced that right. Saw a video where a guy used a short piece of straw with a rubber band through it with a loop on each end of the straw, slipped onto the legs, and supposedly fixed splayed legs. Yeah, there's several ways that you can deal with that. A shot glass or something. Any way you can force their legs under them to basically get their legs under them, get their tendons stretched out, it can help to fix that. You usually have to catch it pretty quick, address it pretty quickly. If you let it go on a day or two, it's usually not fixable at that point. But if you catch it right away and build a splint of some kind that's going to hold their legs underneath them, I've put them in like a piece of PVC pipe that where basically you put the bird in there and their legs are forced underneath them, and that's kind of worked too. But most of the time, I don't know that it's worth fixing, honestly. Andy says, it's been a busy day and I got nothing done, but got the eggs in the incubator. Well, you got something done then. Says, and Andy Rabbit says, I'm going to see my dad. Well, awesome. Hopefully that goes well. Let's see. J-Rod says, I've not seen any raccoons or anything on my cameras or back. Yeah, I get raccoons occasionally, but but that's good. You're not seeing any raccoons or anything. Patricia says, thanks, Chris. Well, you're absolutely welcome. And Andy Rabbit says, oh boy, I'm taking my granddaughter that lives with me when I decided to take my almost 3-year-old granddaughter too. What did I get myself into? Yeah. Make sure you bring something to entertain her on the drive, right? David says, adding to the molting question, how long will it usually last? My quail are indoor in Winola Ranch cages. It can vary a little bit. You're usually looking at about 2 weeks, probably something like that. Assuming you're feeding a fairly high protein feed, they need a lot of protein to regrow feathers. So, and when I say fairly high protein, over 20%. If you've got over 20%, you're probably going to get about 2 weeks maybe, and then they'll recover just fine. Let's see. Hey, Boris is here. Good to see you, Boris. Let's see. We got a couple people talking to each other. I will let you guys do that. Katrina says, thanks, Chris. You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome. Barry says, contact the hatchery about the cracked eggs and they should replace them. Yeah, that's not bad advice at all, actually. That's usually they will replace them. RBL Jackson says, hello this evening. Well, hello to you. Andy Rabbit says, I saved about $500 building my own when I built the 20 new cages, and I still have lots of wire left to build more carrier cages. Yeah, if you're building a lot of cages, it's definitely cheaper to build them than it is to buy pre-made cages. RBL Jackson says, I had a quail that, and let me back up. The reason for that is you can't buy the exact amount of wire to make one cage, or even 2 cages for that matter. It's like you end up with, like you said, lots of extra wire left over. Well, if you only need, it's cheaper to actually buy pre-made cages. RBL Jackson says, I had a quail that tried to lay an egg, but showed her insides and couldn't get the egg out. Finally came out, but there is no shell, and she looks injured now. The term prolapse is what it might be. Yeah, absolutely. We were just talking about prolapse. Somebody else had a hen that prolapsed. So basically, yeah, that's exactly what it is. The insides are coming out when she laid the egg. No shell in the egg. That's not abnormal. That kind of happens all the time. That probably doesn't have anything to do with it. But yeah, prolapse is one of those things. It's not an incredibly common thing, but it can happen for sure. I do believe some birds, like I said, are genetically more prone to it than other birds. It's something that you can try to fix. Basically, you would use something like like mineral oil, Vaseline, something that's kind of slick. Try to push the insides back in. Honestly, I don't know that it's worth doing, because generally a hen that prolapses is going to be prone to doing it again. I think it's probably best to go ahead and call that bird and remove it from your flock, because you don't necessarily want to pass those traits on. Scripe 5000 says, Chris, I had a cat pull 3 quail through the wire of the rabbit cages. I had to place 1x4 by 1x4 hardware cloth all around, including the bottom, and also where the eggs roll out. Tenacious. Yeah, I can imagine. I luckily do not have problems with cats. I mean, we have stray cats that run all over the neighborhood here, but they don't get in my backyard. They don't mess with my birds or anything like that. So I'm lucky in that sense. If I did have problems with that, I'd probably be trapping some cats. But that's another story. Rick says, I use the same stuff you use for cats on rabbit ears, BioGroom. So is that for cauliflower ears? Is that what you're talking about? I've actually never seen that in a rabbit, so I don't know. Andy Rabbit says, thank you, Scrap 5000. I need to wrap my quail cages with the hardware cloth tomorrow before I go. I had something to get a hold of a few last week. Didn't think the hubby will remove the board, and don't think the hubby will remove the board and put it back. That's unfortunate. You have something get into your hutches. Scrap 5000 says, anyone tapping for maple syrup this week? No, not I. I've never done that before. I have a maple tree in my front yard, but it's not a sugar maple, so I don't know. I don't know much about that, honestly. Whiskey Tango Farms is back. Says, sorry I had to step out. Back now. That's all right. Good to see you back. How are we doing on time now? 13 minutes left. Olga says, good evening. Which cage size for rabbits would you recommend? 24 by 36 or 30 by 36? New Zealand and California. I'd go 30 by 36 if you can, especially for your breeding does. The bucks probably could be okay with 24 by 36. But for the breeding does especially, I would go with a 30 by 36. Jay Bennett says, I've used Mana Pro Nurture Right incubator and used a few different thermometers, but they were all reading different. I bought Farm Innovations incubator to use. Yeah, look up like how to calibrate your thermometers. Go ahead and calibrate them first, and then get them reading the same, and then put them in your incubator and see how that works for you. But it's a little tricky sometimes because all incubators are off just a little bit, or all thermometers, including the one in your incubator, are off just a little bit. Jay Bennett says, thank you, Chris, and to all in the chat. With the suggestions, I'll try vitamin K, temperature balance, and contacting the seller about the cracked eggs. That's probably the right track to go. Wish we had like this is it, this will do it, but it's not always that easy. JJ Willow says, hey, everybody. Well, hello to you too. Let's see. Square County Homesteads here says, sorry I'm late, but I made it. It's all good. We're just happy you're here. Where we at here? We got a couple people talking to each other. Oh, excuse me. Oh, yawning. So rude, isn't it? Let's see. Katrina says you can tap more than just maples. Some people tap walnuts. Interesting. Let's see. You make walnut syrup? I've never heard of that. And JJ Willow says sycamore. So like tapping a sycamore tree? Is that? I don't know. Gloss says, I had a similar situation with prolapse issue. The hen was laying gigantic eggs and was too much for her. Yeah, that's usually what the problem is. Not always, but that's usually what it is. Hi, and the Bread Owl says, thank you for your time, sir. Have a good evening. Well, thank you. You have a good evening, too. And Amy wants to know if they're tapping English or black walnut. Interesting. Rick says, I live in the city and I've seen coyote in my backyard. I have a 6-foot tall fence and they still get in Columbia, Ohio. I have them on camera. They can climb. Yeah, they can actually. They're pretty good at it. But it's rare for, like I say, it's not completely unheard of for the coyotes to come into town. In fact, where I hear them from, it's definitely in town. It's just, there's like a section of, I live just about a block off of a fairly main road. And right across from that, there's like railroad property. And it's a section of woods, a pretty decent sized section of woods. And then it's pretty densely populated on the other side of all that. And that's the section where I hear them, calling from and yipping and stuff. And I've seen deer over there. I've actually seen deer in my backyard, right across from my backyard before, but it's not common. It's pretty rare. JJ Willow says, best to mix with sugar maple, but it is a survival trick and very safe. Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. Andy says, I have around 80 to 85 jumbo eggs set. Well, hopefully you have a good hatch. That's a big, quite a few eggs to set. So hopefully you have a good hatch. Scrap 5000 says, Chris, maple syrup tapping is very easy. Just buy the spouts, the tubes, drill a small hole on an angle, collect the sap, and boil it down. All maple tree species are good, but sugar maple is the best. Okay, I didn't know that. I may have to look into it a little more because I do have a maple in my front yard. Katrina says, reminder, this weekend is the time change for those states in the U.S. that participate. Oh, is that this weekend? Dang, I forgot about that. Let's see. There we go. S.O. Swanson says, Dale with Dale's quails taps walnut. Really? I'll talk to him about it then, huh? Andrew says, people here tap birch. Cool. I didn't know that. Okay, we ran out of chat. How are we doing on time? We got 8 minutes left, and I'm at the end. A bunch of people talking to each other, which is perfectly all right. I just ran out of time, ran out of chats. Hey, there's Lenora. Lenora says, hey, Chris, do you grind quail egg shells into your quail food for extra vitamins? No, I don't. I don't give them extra calcium. They got plenty of calcium in their food, plenty of vitamins in their food. I don't bother with it. One caution I would say is if you've got, say, 2% calcium in your, 1.5 to 2.5% calcium in your feed, you probably don't need to add anything extra as far as eggs go. Eggshells are mostly calcium. There's not a whole lot of other nutrients in them. So if you're adding that to your feed, if you're getting up, too high on calcium, it can actually cause problems with your hatch rates because they deposit that extra calcium on the eggshells when they lay the eggs, and it can make it very difficult for the birds to pip their way out of them if the eggshells are very thick. So, if you're having issues, you may want to stop doing that. But if you're not, no sense in changing. Whiskey Tango Farm says, yes, time change this weekend. The name of our Silver Fox specialty is called Spring Ahead Lucky Rabbit Show. That's clever. Amy B says 40 gallons of sugar maple sap equals 1 gallon of sap. Just gotta. So yeah, I'll check that out. I'll respond to that here in a little bit. Amy says 40 gallons of sugar maple sap. She says this is Kristen from Whiskey Tango Farm says a stubborn buck trick. Says you can also try to breed two does next to each other, and the bucks try to compete. They just try harder. So if you have a stubborn buck, that may be a trick you can do with that. All right, so 40 gallons of sugar maple sap equals 1 gallon of, I think that means 1 gallon of syrup, maybe. 60 gallons of red maple or silver maple sap for 1 gallon of syrup. Well, that's a lot. Square County Homestead says our ducks love quail egg shells. Interesting. My dog likes them, but RBL Jackson says, because the eggs laid with no shell, could that also indicate a feed nutrition issue? I'm feeding layer feed for the chickens. Probably not unless it's like a reoccurring, really common issue. It's just sometimes they lay an egg with no shell. Sometimes they lay little bitty eggs. Sometimes they lay great big jumbo double yolk eggs. It's not. It doesn't indicate anything. It's just it's just what they do, and that seems to be more common when they first start laying eggs, or when they first start laying eggs after taking a break. That seems to be when it's most common, but it doesn't mean anything. Scrub 5000 says, Chris, I have a Japanese maple and it produces very little sap, but the syrup is super delicious. It tastes nutty like pine nuts. Interesting. I'd like to try that. Andy Rabbit says, I can't stand black walnuts. Yeah, they're a mess, that for sure, and they do put out, things that keep other plants from growing around them, but they have their place. RBL Jackson says, wait, you mean you can't stand to eat black walnuts? I just love chocolate chip cookies with walnuts in them. Like if it's just a regular chocolate chip cookie, it's okay. It's not bad. It's pretty good. But you throw walnuts in a chocolate chip cookie, man, that's one of the best cookies ever. RBL Jackson says, besides the normal feed, what do you give your quail from time to time for additional snacks, treats, etc.? Not much, really. Sometimes I throw some garden vegetables at them, cucumbers and things like that, but I don't give them a whole lot of extra treats. They're perfectly happy with just the food that they get. They get some some black soldier fly larvae. There we go. In the summer sometimes, because they just colonize underneath there, and I'll have a whole bunch of extra larvae and I'll throw in there for them. But that's about it. JJ Wilcox says black walnuts are a good human dewormer, or is that too much info? I've never had worms, so I wouldn't know, but no, that's a good to know. I guess pumpkin seeds are too, aren't they? Jamie Mike says, LL, sometimes they lay a soft shell egg. Yeah, they do, for sure. LBL Jackson says, you hit it, Chris. They stopped laying, then they picked back up and transported them. They were new to me. Had them about 3 weeks now. Yeah, whenever you move birds, like when you bring new birds home, they're almost always going to lay an egg or two when you get them home. Those are the eggs that were already in their system getting ready to lay. And then they'll shut down for a little while because that's a stress factor for them. And it takes them a couple of weeks before they pick back up usually. So that's pretty common. Lenora said, hey, Chris, what type of toys do you get your rabbits? I want to get my son's rabbits some toys so they don't get bored. I don't really give them toys necessarily, but I do throw sticks like maple or red bud. I've got a red bud tree, and I sometimes will break some branches off there and throw them in there. They love to chew on them and toss them around and play with them a little bit. So that's kind of what I do. David says, have you ever seen a triple yolk egg? I don't think I have, actually. Andy Rabbit says, to me, black walnuts taste like they weigh dirty feet smells. Oh, okay. Well, that would be gross. There's a lot of tannin in them, so I can understand that. Andy Rabbit says she had a triple yolk egg. I've never seen it before. Interesting. All right, 2 minutes left here. We're about done. This may be a good time to go ahead and wrap it up. We're at the end of the chat here. Nobody has said anything that I need to respond to. They're all talking to each other, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Thanks, guys, for joining me tonight. I always have a good time hanging out with you. Hopefully next Thursday we'll be back. I shouldn't see anything. I don't see anything right now that would prevent that. So we'll see you guys next Thursday. So again, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week. And as always, God bless.